So, this is maybe gonna be about tech and or somebody that is successful or an inspiration. Somebody inspirational is just gonna be about something really interesting. I at least really hope. But I'll see you after the intro. The intro as always. As every single day, but still, I'm not bored of it. I am not bored of it, even though I do just think about doing something else and a bit between those regular quote-unquote episodes. Therefore, I just started the episode without actually having something to go through. Because I just somehow feel like, well, maybe this just puts me into some sort of this comfortable state or something. But yeah, with that being said, hello, welcome back to the next episode of the Self-Development with Tactics fucking podcast. And I'm pretty pumped. I'm pretty fucking pumped. And before I forget or before you forget or whatever, if you want to listen to this episode, if you want to consume this episode in a way more efficient way, then please check out the link in the description, because there is the link to the podcast version of that, which means that you are able to listen to this particular episode, which means that it is way more efficient because you're able to do something simultaneously. You can cook while you're listening, and or it actually saves your data if you're on your mobile device, or if you're just mobile in the city or wherever you are without any Wi-Fi. It is just a really great way to also save some data there, because the podcast episodes are just between let's say 40 and 100 megabytes, and the video is gonna be 3 to 4 gigabytes. So it's definitely like a tenth of it, which is pretty interesting, as I'm just thinking about it. So yeah, check out the podcast. If you also learn by listening way better than by just watching, because this is also another factor why there is a podcast. But yeah, let's actually move ahead with the article that I'm having here, or I'm actually not having an article, but I am watching a few articles or seeing a few articles, and one of them is this one. Why Google, Facebook, and Amazon really want you to have a screen-based smart device in your house. And it just actually reminded me on the new products that Amazon was reviewing or presenting. Amazon Ring, and one of them was a ring. And I thought it is really interesting, the Echo Loop, as they call it. And they were talking about it in some sort of a press conference presentation kind of thing, I guess. But the thing is, I do really like that. In terms of usability, I like it. In terms of what you could be able to do with it, in terms of what you actually can do with it. Because the thing is, of course they're gonna listen. Of course, and this is something that you just really have to think about. They are gonna listen. They're gonna listen to whatever you're saying, potentially. Potentially they are doing that, or in theory they are just really able to do that. I think it is even not just a big problem to do that. I don't know. I know in terms of laws it's probably not going to be allowed, at least not in Europe, that's for sure. And I don't know what it is like in the US. It might be different there. It just could also just be the same. I don't know. I really don't know. I'm having some sort of an insect in my room, and by flying against those, I don't know what they're even called. Never mind. It just makes some crazy sound. This is the reason why. Just turn around. Crazy sound, turn around. I should actually be a rapper, motherfucker. I'm actually never mind. But I'm just, for the podcast listeners, because the YouTube viewers, they are just seeing it all the fucking time. Here's how Mark Cuban and the Dallas Mavericks CEO transformed their toxic culture in 18 months. Even though I am not a leader, even though I am not somebody that is leading somebody, that is having a company, that is just having to do with someone, I do kind of feel like that this could actually be something relatively valuable to some people out there, by just talking about culture, how to build culture, what to do, and whatever. As always, all the articles that I'm showing you there are going to be linked down in the description, so if you want to read them on your own, or if you want to consume them on your own just because you kind of feel like, I don't know, I'm reading all the shit in the wrong way, or it's just not enjoyable, whatever, then please check out the link in the description so that you can do it on your own, which is good. But yeah, So how did he do that? There are 3 points, actually only 3 points, how he was able to do that. And I think I'm gonna read the introduction, some sorta, as well. But let's actually get there right, like that. Yeah. So this article, by the way, because I often tend to forget it to say it, is by Scott Moutz. He's a keynote speaker and author, and he's the author of Find the Fire and Make It Matter. I don't know the book, it might be a good book, maybe you look it up, I won't look it up. But yeah. On February the 20th, 2018, Sports Illustrated published a report detailing the Dallas Mavericks culture of misogyny. Well, I'm gonna spell it. MISOGYNY, and sexual harassment. The team then hired an independent law firm to conduct an independent investigation into the Mark Cuban-owned Mavericks organization. And a 43-page report detailed those findings was released 7 months later. Cuban addressed the allegations with great regret, pleading ignorance of the culture that had developed, but profusely apologized for it and took full accountability. He moved to aggressively fix the problem. And what a difference a year and a half makes. The Dallas News just gave an update on September the 18th, the year anniversary of the 43-page report being published, and 18 months after the SI story broke. Whatever, I don't know what it is. I reached out to the Dallas Mavericks press team for comments, but did not immediately hear back. It was a glowing progress report. Here are the main elements of what has driven the turnaround, presented as principles for a playbook of fixing a culture in crisis. Because I also believe the culture, even though culture is, I kind of feel like the culture is one of the words that people just like to use just because it is a trendy word or whatever. Also like work-life balance. Like I'm hearing so many things about work-life balance and nobody was talking about it, at least not in terms of work-life balance. Of course, I guess a lot of people have been talking about it, but there was not quite such a word to use, to actually describe what you're thinking about or what you're talking about. But I'm just seeing it all over the place. And it really bothers me, those words that I'm seeing all the time, that are everywhere, that are so prominent. Like, I don't know. It really just bothers me to some degree. I kind of find it really important that people are talking about about work-life balance and just improving their own lives and being happy and whatever, but I don't know. And it is also great to find some articles just by using this keyword, so that you can actually kind of basically learn more about how you could do this as well. It also makes sense, of course, but maybe you kind of can relate to that. Maybe you really kind of can relate to that, what I'm thinking about. But yeah, the first point to actually having great culture in your team, maybe in your class as well, if you're still a student, as I am, and or even your organization, if you are actually a business leader or business owner, to be a little bit more precise. So the first point, act fast and aim high. Shortly after the SI story first broke, Cuban hired former AT&T Chief Diversity Officer Cynthia Marshall, whom he named CEO and whom he profusely praises and gives credits to for the turnaround. Marshall is clearly a driving force, but has also clearly been working with Cuban closely. Marshall showed up with a 100-day plan to quickly clean up the organization. She set a sky-high goal to go from the NBA example of the Me Too movement to, in Marshall's words, becoming the standard, leading the way in inclusion and diversity. Marshall ushered huge staffing changes, taking the Mavericks to having no business side employees that were women or people of color to 50% women and 43% people of color. Marshall and Cuban payrolled a 25% increase in overall staff size, including more employees in HR and across the business to help with the turnaround effort. Marshall hired lawyers, created an ethics and compliance office, established an employee complaint process, and instituted employee ethics. So she actually did a lot of different things. So I'm not going to read the whole one because I don't know. Just don't feel like it, and it is a decision of mine. And I quickly want to talk about decisions because decisions are some of the things that a lot of people are struggling with, and I am indeed struggling with it as well. I really hate taking decisions, even though I kind of feel like that if it would be really rational, then it would really be easy. It would really, honestly be really, really easy. Because, okay, if everything is based on my values, on my goals, on the shit that I'm trying to do, then it's going to be relatively easy. But once there is somebody else involved, once there is somebody else's values and goals involved, it is getting a little bit complicated, because of course you then have to kind of back off a little bit. Of course, it's not going to be only about you, because of course it is also going to be about this other person, which is totally fine. Like, it is really fine, but it then of course it gets complicated, and then of course it's maybe not going to be as nice for you. It's going to be just some 70% niceness, for both people, or for all three of them, or depends on how many people it has been all about. But it's not going to be fully in terms of your values and goals. It's totally not going to be that. And I don't know, you could also be just really quote unquote stubborn because you're not, and be like, well, either we're doing it in my way, or we just don't gonna do it, or I'm just doing it my way and I don't really give a fuck about how you're gonna do it. You could of course also be doing it like this. If this is gonna lead to a lot of happiness and a lot of friends and a lot of something, I don't know, and I kinda do not feel like that. But who knows? Who really knows? Because I don't know. Because I really don't know. So I've had to come in and turn around a toxic environment before, and I can tell you that fast and obvious action is required to show that you're taking it serious. You need to institute real change quickly that matters, not just window dressing changes, and you have to set aggressive goals that will position the environment as the polar opposite of what it has been. The second point, to drive the right change, first ask, what are we about? What are we actually trying to do? It really makes sense, For if you want to base your decisions on your goals and your values, you first of all have to know your goals and values. And it is the exact same thing, asking the people or asking the CEO or asking somebody what it's all going to be about is a really, really important question, because how should you actually go for something that you don't know, or how can you go to a certain place if you don't know what the place is called and where the place is? It wouldn't be able, even though you're having a navigation system. If you don't know the name of it, then of course you're not going to be able to type it into your touch screen and get there and whatever. It's not going to be possible. It's just not going to be possible. So knowing what it is all about, or what I'm trying to do actually, is really important. I guarantee no organization steps back and says, we are about being a toxic environment to work in. Stepping back to consider what your organization is about forces you to have a vision and casts much needed light on the gaps you have to close to get where you want to be. You simply can't begin to fix a toxic work environment until you're clear on the severity and nature of the problem, and until you're clear on what you want to become. So Cuban and Marshall decided they wanted to be about the best experience in sports for fans and employees. The Dallas Mavericks most certainly was not that 1 year ago. But having a clear vision makes glaring outages all that more glaring, and inherently prompts action. The third and last one. Ask what it takes to change the spirit of the place. You can change people, roles, organizational structure, and many other things to fix a toxic environment or work environment. But to create lasting change, you have to change the spirit of the place. People have to want to change, lead the change, believe in the change, and where it's taking them. They have to demonstrate and change daily behaviors. They have to believe in when leaders Like Marshall says, things like, at the Maves, we make things better. At the Maves, we touch lives. At the Maves, we are mad. We make a difference. And yeah, the thing is, I have been talking about motivation before, but it is still just such an incredibly important thing that I'm just gonna repeat it, and I repeated it over and over and over again. I'm basically often talking about the same things, but in a different way, because I don't know, talking about the same shit over and over again would actually be pretty boring for me. But the thing is, motivation has to come from oneself, even though like having motivational speeches and whatsoever, they work, but they work because they're changing something inside of you. They're not just actually getting you to work. They're getting you to change something inside of you, which then leads you to work on whatever, or to just do something, or work out, or whatever it might have been about. You're gonna do it, and you're not gonna do it because of the motivational speech itself. You're gonna do it because the emotional speech did change how you felt inside, and therefore you decided to do that, because intrinsic motivation is definitely stronger than extrinsic motivation, I guess it is called. I don't really know. But yeah, this is actually the end of the article, and I really have to say that having a nice work environment and an amazing work environment totally makes a difference. It really makes a difference. Like, of course you might know that, whether you are a student or not, or you're actually working in a company or not, you're probably gonna know that if you're working in a place and it is only just filled with people that you do not like just because of them, not really about you, even though it of course has something to do with you, then it's not going to be such a nice place to work at. You're not going to feel as good as in a place where there are just only people that you really like, and that you're appreciating, and people that also like you and whatever. There's just a great atmosphere. It really does make a difference. It really does make a huge difference. Besides your personal kind of issues and values and whatever, the people around you, and it is actually something that really was pointed out to me, actually, some sort of, that people around me really matter. I somehow need the people around me, and having negative people and or no people around me just always not something that I particularly like, I guess. At least as far as I have seen, just me acting in certain situations and not just feeling in certain situations. But yeah, let's actually move on with another Quora question, because I haven't gone through one in the first episode of today, and therefore we're gonna just do it in the second one. We're just gonna do it in the second one. Why do we sleep? To regenerate. What makes life more meaningful? I think I have been talking about that one. What would you consider a bad financial habit? Let's talk about that. So what would you consider a bad financial habit? I would, of course, something that's relatively common: spending your money on shit that you don't need. The worst fucking thing that you could actually do. Because you don't need this shit. Why would you actually kind of pay somebody maybe for also doing something that you do not like, or that you're just doing because you're then gonna feel cool to other people, or other people are gonna really like you more. At least you're thinking they would. But in the end, they actually don't give a fuck about it. Unless it is really like such a cultural thing and or a societal thing. Like, okay, you're wearing Supreme, therefore I'm gonna like you. But if you're not wearing Supreme, then I hate you. Or some shit like that, which definitely doesn't make any sense, of course, but it's gonna be the case somewhere, Something else, in general, spending way too much money, because you can always be cheaper, you could always go on a budget, you do not have to have the newest iPhone. You could also buy yourself just not the newest one, just still a newer one than you're having right now. But does it really have to be the newest one necessarily? Maybe not. Maybe it has to be, It also considers, or also depends on how you think about it, because some people that are actually having a pretty old one, some people that I actually know that are having a pretty old iPhone, they're buying themselves the newest one just because they're going to keep it. They're going to keep it for quite some time, and then it is just fine. You know, if you're buying yourself a new iPhone every single year, like, nah, why? And also I would say spending money on just being convenient or just convenient things or convenience reasons. For example, not walking but getting a cab, a really, really common one, I guess. Having those, or actually paying for some e-scooters that are just in the cities instead of walking, which is free, and all sorts of other things. You know, also like, okay, I'm gonna buy myself some cut bananas, but they're gonna just be or cut melon, you know, which is gonna be expensive, but you know, it is just way more convenient to eat it just because it is already sliced. Or just something similar. Like, there are just many of those issues or many of those examples that actually are about convenience and money and something like that. So yeah, these I would consider relatively bad financial habits. Even though you might be making a lot of money, like, it's still really not a smart thing to do. Really not. At least at my point of view. You know, if you're feeling about it in a different way, if it actually makes you happy to just spend your money on things, then I don't know. Do it, I guess, you know, but really consider also the long term, you know. It is not also always about kind of the short term. But if you're going to be happy long term by spending your money on dumb shit, then please go do it. Really go do it. But yeah, this is going to be the end of the episode, and I'm trying to make it a little bit shorter than the other one. But yeah, I wish you the best health, happiness, and also success. And I also hope that you're going to remind yourself when you're going to be remembered, which means your legacy, you know, which means, okay, being nice so that you're going to be remembered as a nice person, you know, which makes sense. Like, still, I do have to say that there is going to be somebody that hates you, even though you're the nicest and most generous and kindest person on this fucking planet. There's still going to be someone that hates you just because of no reason or because of them and not really you. And 3 other questions that I hope that you're going to ask yourself are: what are you trying to change? What is bothering you the most, and why are you here? These 3 questions are hopefully gonna lead you to figuring out your purpose or what your purpose is, and also maybe give you a business idea, which is kind of the side bonus thing. Also consider subscribing to the YouTube channel and also to the podcast, because there's also always gonna be content every single day, at least one piece of content. Also check out my social media sites, Instagram, Facebook, whatever, and I'm also posting there at least once a day everywhere. But yeah, I'll see you the next time, hopefully. So please stay subscribed, because then I'm obviously gonna see you for sure. Yeah, I really hope so. It would really mean the world to me.